Let's give a toast to the Morning Word crowd. God bless you. God bless America. God bless Uganda. God bless India. And to Binkana, Patrick, and the orphanage that he is running over there, and also Manoj Tandy and the Hope of Glory Ministries. We're going to be in Galatians chapter 5, the end of chapter 5, the beginning of chapter 6. We want to give a shout out to all of our school teachers, to all of our first responders. Lord have mercy, I hear stories every day of what's going on in the classroom and what I see and observe with what's going on out in the world with regards to our police and firefighters, and then our military personnel, what's going on around the world. Man, you guys are up against the wall, man, and we appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for helping us. Our morning word this morning is rejoicing in ourselves, or rejoicing in yourself. And we're going to look at some scripture here. Verse 22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. And those who are Christ have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. Brethren, if a man is overtaken in any trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone thinks himself to be something, when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one examine his own work, and then he will have rejoicing in himself. That's our morning word, rejoicing in himself, alone and not in another, for each one will bear his own load. Now, Paul was talking to the church of Galatians here, the churches and the believers, talking to them about walking in the Spirit. And he contrasts in the verses that we didn't read, beginning in verse 19, some of the works of the flesh. Then he comes down and depicts some of the fruit of the Spirit. And he says that we should walk in the Spirit and give some of that fruit. Then he says, if we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another and envying one another. Now, what does he mean by that? He means that you and I should not become prideful in our walk with the Lord. In other words, some people begin to think, just like they do in everything else, that they're pretty good at being a Christian, and that they kind of got it knocked in the head, that they walk in the Spirit, that they never, they're just always right. They never mess up. They never screw up. They never get out of line. They never have the wrong attitude, so forth and so on. He goes down in chapter 6, verse 1. Now I say chapter 6, verse 1. That's because the Bible that we have is broken down in verses and chapters. When it was written, it was not. So he doesn't go down. It's the same teaching going on. So he says, now, if someone is overtaken in a trespass, in other words, there's someone that's not so spiritual than you, again, he's speaking against conceit, religious pride, provoking one another, envying one another, trying to be like someone else, or trying to always one up someone else with regard in our faith. And people do that all the time. So it says now, if there's a man overtaken in a trespass, in other words, he's caught up in some sort of sin. Maybe he's doing it openly and rebelliously. Maybe he's just hung up and he's trying to keep it a secret. Who knows? But now it's been known. He says, "You who are spiritual," that's me and you. Okay, he's talking about walking in the Spirit. "You who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness." In other words, don't go jump on top of them going, "You stupid fool, what are you doing? Why did you do that? You know better than that." Don't do that. He says, restore them, i.e. bring them back, help them see what's going on that's wrong, confess it, admit it, turn back to the Lord. All right. In a spirit of gentleness, watch, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. How many times have you ever said, "Well, I know I'm not perfect, but I would have never done that"? Well, let's just look back at our case history. We've all done the very thing that we said we would never do. We've all parented like our parent. You said, "I'll never do that." We've all strayed in things that we've said, things that we've done, so forth and so on. You said, I'd never do that. You did it. You did it again, and then you did it again. I did it. You did it. I think some of us did it together. So he says, you and I, you need to think about where you came from, and don't think that you are not above falling. All right. So he goes on and he says, do it in the spirit of gentleness, lest you also be tempted. In other words, what can go around will come around if you're not careful. So avoid religious pride. But he goes on and he says, you need to be reminded that you're nothing. Now, what is he talking about? You're nothing. Well, he means that without Christ, you're nothing. Without Christ, you can't do anything. So religious pride is battled against and fought against with the understanding that without Jesus, we're nothing. And without Christ, we can do nothing. We're completely and totally dependent. All right. So that fights against religious pride and conceit. Then he goes down and he says, but let each one examine his own work, and then he will have rejoicing in himself alone and not another. In other words, guys, here's the deal. He's warning us against religious pride. He's helping us to see that when other people fall and other Christians get caught up into various sins, that we should not go to them with religious pride and chastise them and belittle them, and God forbid, talk about them behind their back. But we should go in a spirit of gentleness, knowing, as my mother used to say, if I could paraphrase and sum up this whole little teaching right here, but for the grace of God, there go I. So that's the attitude that we need to have. Then he goes down and he says, and when you do a good work, all right, but let each one examine his own work. And he's talking specifically here about helping another person. Helping another person. Don't get prideful in that. It says, but rejoice in yourself alone. In other words, don't go toot your horn, but you can rejoice in yourself. So how do I rejoice in myself and not become conceited? By acknowledging to yourself that I've done what God would have me to do, that I've done it to the best of my ability. All right? Everyone needs a cheerleader, and everyone needs a pat on the back sometimes. The problem gets to be when we have to have it all the time, and the next thing you know is we're seeking adoration, approval, so forth and so on, which is the trap of Facebook, by the way. And we're always trying to keep ourselves out front or to be recognized so that someone will pat us on the back, thumb up us, heart us, love us, acknowledge our post, acknowledge our accomplishments, so forth and so on. Now, again, everyone needs a little bit of that. Our children need that. You need that. God created us for community. That means that we need interaction with others, both approval and correction. But he says that we aren't to be conceited, but we can rejoice in ourselves. In other words, rejoice in yourself. Don't go and say, did a pretty good job up there, didn't I? Did y'all see that? That's not rejoicing in yourself. Rejoicing in yourself is walking away quietly, even if no one pats you on the back, even if no one hugs your neck, even if no one sends you a thumb up or a heart, even if no one sends you a card, even if no one sends you a text or a phone call, and you know that you did the right thing and you did it to the best of your ability, and God's pleased with that. You see, rejoicing in yourself means that I've only done what the Lord, or here walking in the Spirit, what the Spirit has led me to do, and I've done it to the best of my ability. And I don't need anyone else to acknowledge that, to approve of that, or to cheer me on. All I need to know is in myself that I did the best. I did what I thought was right, being led by the Spirit. I did it to the best of my ability, and I did it for the glory of Jesus. Rejoicing in yourself. Why? It says in verse 5, because each will bear his own load. Well, he just told us to bear one another's burdens. Now it's talking about bear our own load. Bearing one another's burdens is helping someone else that's under a burden. Bearing your own load means that you're going to stand before the Lord Jesus Christ, and all of our quote unquote good deeds that we've done, we will be accountable for them alone. No cheerleaders, no band, no support group, no friends. You're going to stand before the Lord with your own works and give account of them. So he says, if you'll just do what I've asked you to do, Do it with all your heart. Do it the best you can. And don't compare your job to their job. Don't compare the size of your accomplishments or deeds to someone else's accomplishments or deeds. Don't look at the size of your church as a pastor and say, I failed, because you're comparing it to the size of the other guy's church, or to the size of your Sunday school class to the size of somebody else's Sunday school class, or the fact that your small group, that small group gave their teacher a big Christmas present and your small group didn't even give you a candy cane. All right. Stop looking at all that kind of silly stuff and say, you know what? I did what I did. I do what I do to the best of my ability, given the opportunity, and I did it for the Lord. And it said God sees that and God will reward that. So yes, we all need a cheerleader, but the problem lies when we try to go out front and draw cheers and gain cheers instead of just letting people cheer us on our own. Rejoice in yourself. Be proud. Listen, if you can't be proud of your own work, then obviously you're not doing the work that you should be doing, and you're not doing it to the best of your ability. I tried to tell my kids when they were growing up and turning in their homework, and I've been on Micah lately. He's 4th grade, and I told him, I said, son, you got to start working on your penmanship. I said, when you take your time, you write really well. But when you're in a hurry and you don't care, it's just all over the page, big letters, small letters, all rammed together. I said, it looks like, I said, you can do better than that. I said, don't you want your teacher to think that you did your best? Don't you want to do your best? And that's what it is, guys. Listen, when you do your best and when you do your job, it doesn't matter. First of all, usually when that happens, people will take notice. But when it doesn't happen, know that God takes notice and that you can have pride in your own work, not conceit, but I can rejoice in myself and say, you know what? I did it to the best of my ability. I did what I could with what I had, and I did the best I could. And so today, it's okay if people cheer you on, and it's okay if you cheer other people on, but don't live for the cheer and don't strive for the cheer. Just know that whatever you're doing today, whether it be giving shots at the hospital, building tires, teaching school, whatever it is that you're going to go do today, you go do it. Do it to the best of your ability. And even if no one cheers you on, when you go to bed at night, when you come home today, you say, you know what? I did a good day's work. I did my best. I didn't slouch around. I did a good job. And I'm thankful that I had that opportunity. And I'm proud of myself. I rejoice in myself, and God is happy with it. Everything else is gravy. Hope you. Sorry for the glitches at the beginning. Sorry for the whole mess up. You might have to watch this in 2 parts, but anyway, we love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.